12th, 2025. The Planning Commission is conducting in-person regular meetings. However, the ability to participate electronically is continuing. These meetings are via Zoom pursuant to state law. The public can find information on how to participate in Planning Commission meetings in our public notices. Directions on how to find the full meeting materials, applications, and staff reports on the city's website are also included in our public notices. I see that we have 4 out of 6 commissioners, so we do have a quorum. Brandon, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Chair Werner. Wanted to note that the City Council is going to be holding a public hearing regarding the annexation of 1511 Highway 99 at their meeting next Tuesday, August 19th. They'll also be reviewing second reading of the ordinances implementing the SOU master plan at that meeting, having approved them at their prior public hearing. I also wanted to note that on August 14th, the Parks Department is going to be holding an open house from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock at the Senior Center at 1699 Holmes Avenue. And they're really accepting feedback on the East Main project, which this body had approved annexation and site review and went to the City Council and was approved for annexation and site review with a number of conditions. The Parks Department has looked at the cost of development of that and are looking at ways to potentially amend their application, which would then come back before this body. I also wanted to note that the water treatment facility work up at the top of Granite Street is now underway, with the culvert crossing being in process right now. And in the interim, while the culvert is being replaced, as off-site improvements, including water lines being run, there is a temporary pedestrian crossing over Ashland Creek. And that is it for current announcements. Thank you.
Cool, thank you very much. The consent agenda is approval of the July 22nd, 2025 special meeting minutes. And we were given a revised set of those minutes earlier today. It was emailed to us this morning. So let's be sure and look at the right one. And are there any comments or a motion? Go for it.
Thanks, Chair Werner. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented, including the amended minutes for the July 22nd, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, that's passed. Next, we have public forum. If you wish to speak on something other than the agenda, I see we do have one request. Please fill out the speaker request form. It's pink and it's in the back, and hand it to Michael and he will get it to me. And so we have Allison Laughlin, who wants to talk to us on something not on the agenda. Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Alison Laughlin. I live at 717 Roker Street. I've lived there for 40 years, over 40 years. We're coming here because we didn't know where else to go. So we want to speak to the importance of the stormwater easement on Fern Street, the easement through the Roker Canyon property of SOU. It was sent to be looked at, and people came out and looked at it and did some fixing, and we still have some major concerns. I say we, I think Bruce is going to be here, and the neighbors on the Roker Canyon are concerned, because when it rains, water roars down Roker Street. It also roars down Fern Street. I mean, it's a very steep area. Apparently the drain pipe going by the Roker Park subdivision was broken, and they did repair that. but the volume of water is way more than what can be accommodated by that pipe. We didn't realize it was broken because we've always had street flooding and winter sheet ice. Every storm, water flows out and covers the road, both at Fern Street and where Roker slopes steeply down to the Science Building and turns left-west. In winter, this steep slope and turn is sheet ice. We often have to park and walk up. A tow truck usually waits down at the bottom there, very annoying, waiting to help you up, or people in the ditch, or people having trouble coming down. It's also really dangerous because there's no sidewalk, and so my kids, who are now grown up, walking to school, and students going to Y are walking as people are sliding everywhere on that street. When there's a storm, we can't get off the hill. In the last, I admit, big storm, my son couldn't even get up to me to shovel my driveway, and I just got out of hospital with a back problem. I worry about being stuck up there in an emergency. Several neighbours have said, you know, I can't get off the hill when it rains, snows, or rains. With global warming causing even bigger storms, I want the city to maintain that stormwater easement down the Fern Street easement and to extend it right down to the Roker Creek to reduce Roker Street dangerous flooding problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an issue that is not on our agenda? Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. And we have before us approval of the revised findings on remand from the City Council for PA-T2-2024-00053 at 231 Granite Street, otherwise known as the DeBoer House. Our earlier decision was appealed to the City Council, and while the council upheld our decision, they have asked us to beef up our findings in light of a possible appeal to LUBA. What you have in front of you tonight is a revised set of findings by the staff with suggested revisions from the applicants and additional suggested revisions by Commissioner Phillips and myself.
I would also add there was one question raised to staff regarding section 2.5 of the findings. There is a statement, the commission notes that with the proposal, one additional home serving a lot with a pre-existing easement will be served from the shared driveway. I think there was some confusion about one additional home implying that another home later would be built.
So two.
That one additional home is the home proposed here.
Okay.
So with construction of this home, there will be one additional home on the driveway.
Okay, thank you. for
And that is that way in the existing findings that were adopted also.
Okay. So since we are in deliberations, I'll ask the commissioners if they have had any ex parte communication. Commissioner McCracken-Jan?
No ex parte, no site visit.
Commissioner Marr?
I
Sorry.
made a site visit some weeks ago, but no ex parte.
Thank you. Commissioner Phillips?
No ex parte, and I have had a site visit.
Okay. And I have not had any ex parte contact either. So, does any commissioner have any questions for what's in front of us? Maybe clarifying what is actually in front of us. So we received a revised packet, if you will, earlier today. And then I sent out a revision to a statement on 2.5, in section 2.5, paragraph 10. And I have that, I have copies of that if somebody would like them. You want, oh. Okay. So, Go for it.
You said this is a moment for questions, so I do have a question about a statement here. So this is the revision to 2.5, paragraph 10.
Okay,
Commission finds that the city of Commission finds that this development will not have a substantial negative impact on the adjacent properties. Can we be a little bit clearer about exactly what substantial negative impact means? Does that mean trees, landscaping, flag drive, access, easement, et cetera, or does it mean traffic? That's not clear to me.
it's a revision of a statement made by the applicant to the staff. So let me turn to staff and say, do you have any idea what was meant by substantial? Well, the alternative would be to just remove the word.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, see just below that it goes on to state that it's related to proposed driveway grades, turnout locations, hydrant access, and fire suppression systems. So it is specific, yeah.
Okay, that's good enough for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Jen?
So, as I read this, there were 2 paragraphs that I think were missing some words.
Okay.
So,
Where are they?
on total page number 27, the first
I don't
paragraph.
think are you using the version that came out today?
I'm using the packet that I was delivered.
Okay.
I didn't reread a new one.
Yeah. This is, it's, the things that are in yellow are the new additions.
So Derek Severson's going to pull up the electronic copy of the,
Okay, well,
Findings
that's
that you
one of
made.
them. And, thank you. And that's the other one.
Okay, solved. That was easy.
Well done.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or concerns or rewrites?
I have one other question related to AMC 18-31090 B8A and B8D.
And what,
Yeah, sorry. So it has to do with the building pad, and I'm just trying to find it here in the revised. 18. Sorry. Yeah, so my question there is just that there's some ambiguous language that maybe we should be clear about. It says building pad should be of minimum size to accommodate the structure and a reasonable amount of yard space. And so reasonable amount of yard space. And I saw in the application earlier too that it stated that all flag drives should have a minimum yard space of 20 by 20, I think, 400 square feet. And this particular project has leveling of, sorry, bear with me 1 second here. 2,838 square feet exterior site plan, including the patio, walk steps, pool, and pool shed.
where are you?
Sorry. It looks like it's page 6, top of page 6.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything that.
Yeah, no, I
refers-
mean, there's one reference there, but it's to the fire standards. We can move on. I don't want to delay us. That's fine. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
So I have one sort of related question. The appeal made a lot of mention of minimum destruction, minimum construction, minimum. And I do have to ask myself whether a large swimming pool qualifies for minimum. I understand that it will have some fire, it can be used in case of fire, that the overall amount of land that will be disrupted is well below the city's requirements, but from, I guess, a more philosophical basis, does having a large swimming pool, how does that square with minimal building upon the land? I'm open to other opinions on that, or interpretations.
Well, I'll give you one. I don't think it qualifies at all, but on the other hand, we have made a decision to approve the project as it was submitted, so, or generally as it was submitted, so I'm not sure we can go back. I don't think we cannot go back and change that decision.
Yeah, that reference is found in the middle of page 6. And just for reference, that's where it states this particular concern about the patio pool deck within an area of excavation, the construction. I did check with some general contractors, and they did agree with that premise.
Is that the premise?
That the area that is being used for the patio would be the logical area for staging for construction on a house of this slope.
Okay.
And during deliberations, when this came before the Planning Commission, the applicant stated that it was an area of staging prior to being turned into a pool. I would note that the code does stipulate that pools are discouraged, but not prohibited, and I think that is one recommended change in terms of the draft findings before you, to clarify in that section that Commissioner Marr just referenced, that the commission finds that pools are discouraged but not prohibited, to clarify that section of code.
And in the plan, I think the pool plus the surrounding perimeter area, 680 square feet, just for reference. It was in the application.
Okay. So in that, the paragraph that you just referenced on middle of page 6, the new addition sentence says, "The commission finds that the proposed development reduces adverse impacts, potential hazards, and limits the amount of hillside disturbance." I personally would like to delete that sentence. And
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Werner. Do you want to say a little bit more about why you'd like to remove that sentence?
I don't think we ever found that directly, and I think it goes beyond what we need to say.
It is quite sweeping.
Yes, yes. Would somebody be interested in formulating a motion? Go for it.
Thanks, Chair Werner. I move that the Planning Commission approve the amended findings for planning action PA-T2-2024-0053, a request for site design review and a physical and environmental constraints review permit for a development of a single-family residence at 231 Granite Street. The amended findings dated August 12th, 2025 incorporate revisions from staff and the updated condition 2.5 provided by Chair Werner. We would also omit the sentence that was just referenced. The commission finds that the proposed development reduces adverse impacts, potential hazards, and limits the amount of hillside disturbance. Approval is based on the findings and conclusions stated in the Planning Commission's record and is subject to the conditions of approval as set forth in the amended findings.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the findings as put forward to us earlier this morning with the addition of revision to section 2.5, paragraph 10, and the deletion of the sentence, the commission finds that the proposed development reduces adverse impacts, potential hazards, and limits the amount of hillside disturbance. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Michael, will you do the roll call?
Commissioner McCracken-Jen.
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Marr.
Aye.
Chair Werner.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now turn to our type 2 public hearing. And this is, the type 2 public hearing is held before the Planning Commission with the Planning Commission making a decision after the hearing. And then that decision is appealable to the City Council. The matter before us is a request for a final plan approval for a 15-lot Performance Standards Option, PSO, subdivision known as Kestrel Park, Phase 3. We approved the first part, the subdivision outline plan, last January, and this is before us because the applicant is also requesting a change to the previous site design review plan approval. And the site is the intersection of Nandina Street and Stone Ridge Parkway in Kestrel Park. The applicant is Tailored Elements. The property owner is either PDK Properties LLC or CMK Development LLC. Both of them were listed. The comp plan designation is North Mountain. The zoning is North Mountain multifamily. The map is 391E04-AD, and its tax lots 8,600, 4,700, 7,800, and 4,900. I'll now ask commissioners if they've had any ex parte contact or done a site visit. Commissioner McCracken-Jen?
No ex parte contact, no site visit.
Commissioner Marr?
No ex parte, no site visit.
Commissioner Phillips?
No ex parte, and I have had a site visit.
And I have not had any ex parte contact, but did a site visit earlier today. I'm not aware of any challenges for bias, prejudgment, or personal interest. I will acknowledge the letters that we have received, one from Mark Abel, one from Nancy Crowley, one from Jared Crawford, and one from Lynn Gutierrez. And I will now open the public hearing. Aaron, go for it.
Chair, Planning Commission, pleasure to be before you again. My name is Aaron Anderson. I'm the Senior Planner in the Community Development Department. Shown on the slide is the general location of the North Mountain neighborhood, and this is a closer-up display of the neighborhood with the subject property in the center. This is a near map image, and again, you can see the subject property is in the center with street tubs to each direction. The application is a request for final plan approval for the subdivision that has already been approved. Typically, that would be a type 1 decision that would not come before this body. But in the present case, there's also a modification to the site design review as it relates to the building elevations. Because it's a major modification, it requires it to come back to the same approving body. Again, this is the subject property shown with the zoning map, and it is zoned North Mountain multifamily. So I'm going to take each of the 3 components in turn. First, with regards to outline plan. This was the approved site plan when this came before you. As you can see, this alley to the north of the project was shown to support vehicle traffic. The present application now has a pedestrian connection from the end of the existing Julian Court to Patton Lane. So because of that change, we thought that was significant enough that we needed to address the modification to the outline plan as it related to that alley's improvement. This is from the civil grading plans showing the same pedestrian connection that I just mentioned. And then as it relates to site design review, there's a modification there as well as it relates to the building layout and elevations. Shown on the left is Area 6 as it was reviewed and previously approved, and on the right is the present approval. You'll notice that there's only a few parking spots that are shown here, and that's because this original approval involved parking being underneath the second story development, where this pointer is here, and again here and here. And so now the parking is no longer tucked under the buildings. There's a small parking area, and then 4 compact parking spaces off of Julian Court, and the parking area connects to Nandina Street. They provided a detailed grading plan with finished floor elevations for the proposed buildings, and again, this is the same parking area that you just saw a moment ago, and this is the pedestrian connection there. The next couple of slides are renderings as they related to what was reviewed and approved versus what is before us now. Again, note the parking underneath the buildings, and really the subject property for Area 6 being shown to be very level to each other. And if you notice that the modified plan, the buildings facing Patton are much lower as they relate to the higher buildings. And again, this is from the Julian Court alley. The pedestrian connection is right here where my pointer is. And you can see how, again, the original rendering showed the elevation be very constant across the entire site. And then these are 2 more renderings, again, showing that pedestrian connection as it relates to the buildings. And then finally, this is an aerial view from the northeast, looking into the parking area shared in common with the buildings. Again, as it relates to site design review, they provided exhibits showing that all of the separation of parking from the buildings have been met, as well as drive widths and other buffering and screening requirements. The landscaping plan includes screening as required between the buildings and the parking areas. And because these buildings over here are attached single family, they're subject to site design review as well. And this is a planting plan for the entire project. As it relates to final plan, during outline plan approval, there were a few items that needed to be addressed. One of them was that they were originally showing 47-foot wide rights of way through here, and the North Mountain standards call for 48. So the survey plat now has been updated to show a 48-foot right of way. Also the additional 4-foot dedication of alleyway over here, and the additional right-of-way dedication to increase that alley to the 20-foot standard for the North Mountain neighborhood. These are the civil plans. The applicant asked if they could include additional parking bays along Patton, and staff looked at that and understood that the regulations discuss parking bays for the North Mountain neighborhood, and so that adds 4 additional on-street parking spaces to the project. After the staff report was published, it was realized that condition of approval was number 2 was included in error. It relates to a different planning action entirely, and that there was not an irrigation plan included with the landscaping plan. And so we'd like to ask to include, subject to your approval, the following condition of approval requiring irrigation that meets the water conservation guidelines to be done before building permits are issued, and then installation prior to condition certificate of approval. And then finally, I have all the approval criteria as it relates to outline plan, final plan, site design review, and major modifications to approved plan. And I'm more than happy to take any questions that you have.
Go for it.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So what's the grade on that walkway?
50%.
Oh, okay. And it goes down to what, like 4 or 5 stairs or something like that?
I believe it's 4 or 5 stairs, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
The walkway, the pedestrian walkway itself is 15% grade?
Yes, it is.
How does that meet ADA standards?
It looks steep on the picture, so that's why I asked.
It's the minimum grade that can be achieved from the 2 existing terminuses of the roadways that need to connect.
Without sculpting the ground?
No, just going from the 2 different elevations, even with the proposed grading, which there's a considerable amount of on the downhill side, that is the minimum grade that can be achieved.
I would note that the sidewalks internal to the development and from the ADA parking space that is required would be subject to ADA accessibility, whereas the public improvements in the public right-of-way, often we have streets in Ashland that exceed the grade, and as such, sidewalks adjacent to those streets are not ADA accessible.
Okay, then from just a basic walkability standard, 15% is quite steep.
Clearly, as well as stairs would also be an impediment
Right.
to somebody that was in a wheelchair. But as
But
Aaron was indicating, given the grade at the point where the pedestrian connection touches Patton and where it would touch Julian Square, a straight shot would require a grade that's higher than 6 or 7%. So I guess 15 in this case.
And where would the ADA parking space be? I
The
can't
ADA
tell.
parking space is right here where the pointer is, and you can
Oh,
see
okay.
the
That
van
one.
area.
I see it.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Aaron? Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation? Applicants?
Mark Knox, 670 Penfield Road. I'm an end-use consultant.
Kyle Taylor, 1679 Jackson Road. I am the owner of the property, and it's PDK Properties. CNK Development was a previous entity I own as well, but it's not the same entity, so.
Thank you.
I just want to start off by saying that every application has multiple steps, right? The outline plan, final plan. In fact, it goes back to the pre-application. Whereas every time you take that step, things get more refined. In this particular case, our engineers and a little bit of our architects made the assumption, and they had the data, made the assumption that it wasn't as steep as we've heard tonight. As we were refining that, the civil plans, it was too steep.
Would you put your mic on just so?
Oh, sorry.
The light shows that we can catch you on the.
Red light.
Yep.
I'm gonna have a problem with that. Where was I? The civil plans are now shown that, or when they were designing them, excuse me, are showing that it was really too steep, especially as it entered into Patton Lane, right? It's an existing street that we have to connect in. In fact, just a note, we're having to connect in with multiple neighborhoods, and which is kind of causing all sorts of little connection points that have had to be resolved. This one was, we can't make it work for vehicles, but can we make it for pedestrians? And that is in line with the North Mountain Plan as far as moving people around in various aspects, either through vehicles or through pedestrian activity or connections. In this case, I think the 15% is really a worst case. We soften that by adding steps. So it's not really 15%, it's probably gonna be more like 12 when it's all said and done, because we'll be adding steps into that area. So there's another area like this that I didn't think we were gonna discuss, but it is up off of Patton, and I believe it's also Plum Ridge, where there's a big opening between units, and it's just it's a graded path that goes down. So it's existing, it's part of the master plan. This path, if you continue to follow it all the way down, it again at Stone Ridge also has steps. If you continue to follow it all the way down to Kestrel Park, it's all graded out, and there are sections that are probably about 15% as well, right there between Stone Ridge and the first probably 30 feet or so of that path all the way at the bottom. So I just wanted to clarify that because it seemed to Commissioner Verter was concerned about that grade. I don't think it's going to be as severe anywhere near as I think what you're probably thinking. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Really, the nuts and bolts of the modification that happened here, as Mark said, are just a refinement from our outline plan and moving forward towards the completion of this, and recognizing that we did have some real close calls with our solar ordinance on some of these buildings. We were struggling a little bit with the grade on the pedestrian path, so we made some modifications to make those adjustments happen, and listening to some of our neighbors and being somewhat concerned about some of their views, and recognizing that we needed to drop these buildings a little bit. It made that parking just really unreasonable to do underneath the building. So that was really the main purpose of the modification, was to move that parking, rearrange those structures. So we ended up with the same amount of units. They're real similar in square footage. The request for some of the on-street parking, the bays there is really in response to some of our neighbors talking about access and making sure that we have wide enough streets for emergency service vehicles as well as everyday traffic to move through there. So really this is a refinement of what we had originally proposed, and truthfully I think in a lot of ways it's a lot better. We've pushed this frontage building on Patton quite a ways down in the ground, and it will really feel to the people on the uphill much more like a single story property. It will feel much more, smaller scale, I guess, for a lot of those folks there. So that's really the reason that we're here tonight. It was just a refinement, and I understand the staff, and they've been wonderful to work with and working through and making sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's here. So that's all.
Last thing I was going to mention is that the North Mountain Plan was required to have a certain amount of density, right? And I believe we have to build at least 43. With this particular proposal, at least this particular phase, without that area 7, we're at 24 now, which is, we're 45% under density right now. We don't know what this area 7 will entail. We kind of pulled back from that on the design, but just want to make sure it's real clear for everybody in the audience. We're way under density right now with this particular application.
So you would expect to have 43 minus 24, 19 units in Area 7?
Yeah, and that doesn't include the 3/4 units of 500 square feet or less. I'm just talking standard. Okay. So, yeah, we have to, or we could, I guess, build up to an additional 19, 20. So, but we don't know yet.
I really like where you guys netted out. I think it looks great regarding the 19 units, 19 Delta?
24.
24. I mean, do you have like a sketch, a rough idea? Do you have a concept? Any thoughts? Or like maybe another representative project that you've seen either here or elsewhere that looks
Of
like?
Area 7?
Yeah, of Area 7 that might work?
We've definitely done some preliminary planning on Area 7, but this was our focus.
Yeah,
Was to
sure.
move this process through, and I would expect that once approval happens here and we are able to get some land development permits and start actually moving some dirt, we'll really focus on that and get that turned in. And of course, you'll have an opportunity to review that as well as it comes through this body.
So I have a question for you. How do you know that there's a market for small units? I mean, you got, the notes say 8 units that are under 500 square feet. How do you know that there's a market for that?
You are talking to a developer,
I
and
know,
my glass
I
is
know.
3/4 full, and that's just how I operate. And, you know, I think that there's a tremendous push for affordable housing, and this is not an affordable project as it's deemed, you know, by the state and by other. However, affordable being smaller in a lot of applications works as well. And that's our target market is to be able to build something that people can actually afford to rent. That's our target, and that's what our performas show, and that's what we're shooting for. So I haven't seen a lot of those developments in Ashland. I've seen them in other locations. So we're giving it a whirl because I am 3/4 full.
Housing needs analysis. The city has various documents that even discuss this, the housing needs analysis being just one of them. Also just, you know, on the ground demand that I'm involved in some multifamily projects, and there's a significant demand, as Kyle was saying, for not so much smaller units, but attainable units based upon price. And that's really what, you know, not only the various documents talk about, you know, what is needed, but really what's really important for various aspects of how the city functions, right? We need employees here. And those employees need affordable housing, and these are the type of projects that provide that.
I will also note, just note real quickly that there is a variety of sizes of project, or of buildings throughout the project. So they're not all
Right,
small, of
right,
course. So
right.
there's a mix of development there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to applaud you for taking this on. I think that those are going to rent pretty quickly. Yeah. And I think the fact that it's low density and they're, I don't know, micro units, they're small units, makes them really appealing to people, and their ground floor, well, a short walk ups, a few steps. Yeah. So I think it's going to be great.
Susan?
One thing that I was curious about, and I didn't see obvious here, so forgive me if I missed it, but just eyeballing the new plan versus the old, what is the amount of, do you know how much of the total property is now covered in asphalt in this plan versus the other plan? Because it looks to be substantially more.
I honestly can't recall. I do know there was a condition that basically talks about, you know, prior to the building permits, make sure that's all clear, which will have to be done. But now that it's showing up.
Yeah, I think it was good. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that information here, but that is that is
75% in this particular zone?
We were just confirming that. We know that's the case for R2, which is, this is an equivalent zone, but I'm not confident in terms of the normal or the neighborhood plan.
And thank you. I wanted to clarify what I was asking. 75% allowable lot coverage, again, because it's multifamily. Unlike single family, multifamily is really trying to put it all inside the box, which increases impervious surface areas. So, yeah. But I don't have that information.
I don't think it says on there, and even if it did, I couldn't read it.
Are you confident that it is within code and requirements in that regard?
So this is on total page number 131. There's a breakdown of lot coverage by lot. And the lots are between 68 and 65, 57. So I believe in the aggregate, it will be found to meet the standard.
Sorry, what was the last part?
I would need to total those all up to see if those averaged out to be under 75%, but I believe it, oh, sorry, here, pardon me. On the upper left corner of total page 131, it shows that the total lot for Area 6 is 68% lot coverage.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
great, thank you, Aaron.
Yep.
I'm just curious, how big are those patios? Sorry to put you on the spot.
On which,
Well, they all looked, the little corner patios all look to be about the same. I'm just curious, like, what the dimensions of those patios are. I apologize if it's in your report.
6.
6 by 6?
I believe they're 6 by 8, and that is a design standard in the North Mountain neighborhood.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's correct.
Any further questions of the applicant? Thank you very much. And now we'll have public comments. I received a request form from Mark Abel. The podium over there, thank you. Oh. He needs the microphone.
It's on? Okay.
Oh,
So, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. In 2020, the Alameda Fire provided a tragic example of what can happen when we simply sit on our hands and do nothing. Now is the time to act and commit to making a real difference. This is a quote from the Ashland Community Wildfire Protection Plan. My name is Mark Abel. I live at 902 Patton Lane, directly bordering the Kestrel project. I recognize that this development checks all the boxes. There's a lot of good design elements we like in this. And probably you're going to pass that. And I'd like you to know that I don't oppose it at all. I do have 3 worrisome concerns. 1 is the street width, 2 is the density, 3 is the distance between the buildings. When high density is coupled with the narrowing streets and alleys, you do have a recipe for disaster. Hopefully all of you have read the KLD evacuation study and have at least read the highlights of the recently released wildfire protection plan, and perhaps have read the letter I sent to you recently. Ashland is in the top 3% of the catastrophic wildfire potential in the nation. And I'm here tonight to suggest to you that you have an opportunity to step up in defense of Ashland citizens and take a bold step to protect us from this imminent threat of fire. My request is that you pause this development just long enough to widen the road width, reduce the density, and increase the space between the buildings. These changes will eventually be codified, but you can start now. And it has to start somewhere. So why not tonight? Are the system development fees and the property taxes more important than the safety of the citizens of Ashland, whom you serve? So far this summer, a fire on Eagle Mill, a 40-acre fire just across the freeway, the Neal Creek fire, a lightning storm that set 72 fires in Jackson and Josephine counties. And these fires are warning shots across the bow. And the Alameda fire was a slap upside the head. So I ask you, what will it take? As I'm, as sure as I am standing here, if a wildfire does break out, many people will die because the North Mountain neighborhood will congest within 10 minutes. Most of Ashland will congest within 15 to 20 minutes. And evacuation will become a nightmare. And the fire will range. And because of the narrow roads, because of the density, and because the buildings are too close together, we will be facing serious issues. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the planning commission? Okay. Time for the applicant rebuttal. Okay. Then I will go ahead and close the public hearing and close the record. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're into deliberations and discussion. Russell?
Thanks, Chair Werner. Aaron, would you be able to throw back up the conditions that you had removed and changed in your presentation? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. You're suggesting that we can remove the condition that all new addresses be assigned by the City of Ashland Planning Department?
No. The condition of approval, number 2 on page 10 of the staff report, deals with the row width for Ingle Street and Caldera Lane. That was related to a project on 300 Clay Street. So it's condition of approval number 2 with 3 subconditions, and it was included in error. I'm sorry, I must be looking at a different draft. I'm sorry, I was reviewing a previous draft from what went in the packet. My apologies. So I am not recommending to remove condition of approval number 2. Again, I was looking at a previous version of the staff report.
Okay, and the one that you think is in there is the one with the 3 sub-conditions?
The version of the staff report that I'm looking at was before what went in the packet. So
But the one, the condition 2 that you want to keep in has 3 sub-conditions?
no, I'm sorry. The draft that I'm looking at has a different condition of approval number 2. So we're not removing condition of approval number 2 at all. Sorry, it's already been removed prior to going into your packet.
Okay, then I'm confused about what are the conditions?
So beginning on page 14 of the packet, it enumerates the recommended conditions of approval on page 14, 15, and 16, which are full packet numbers 89 through page 92 or 91 would be the conditions of approval as recommended by staff.
Okay, I'm really confused.
We're no longer recommending the removal of condition of approval number 2 at all.
I got that,
Okay.
I got that. I just can't find where you're looking at. So I'm looking at page,
So total page number 86, I apologize.
okay, 86, okay, got it. Okay. And you want to revise number 7,
To include that condition approval as the 8th condition approval.
okay. The irrigation system, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair Werner. Aaron, just to clarify, the addition of this condition of approval that we have here on the screen, would that be 7G or condition 8?
I would add it as number 8.
Number 8?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions on the project? Anything you're still unclear about? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Can we make additional questions to the applicant?
No.
Okay. No further questions?
Well, public hearing is closed, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chair Werner. I move to approve the modification to the outline plan and site design review, as well as the final plan approval for planning action PA-T2-2025-00059, consistent with the staff report dated August 12th, 2025, and subject to the conditions of approval as outlined in the staff recommendation. We would also add the 8th condition of approval, as Aaron suggested here on the screen.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the Phase 3 of Kestrel Park, as presented with the addition of condition number 8 as written on the screen in front of us, be approved. Is there a discussion?
Thanks, Chair Werner. I have one change. I got the planning action incorrect. It's actually PA-T2-2024-0054, according to the bottom of the staff report.
Good, didn't think that sounded quite right. No, actually, it's PA-T2-2025-00059.
59 is correct.
Okay, got it. I was on a different part of the packet. Thank you. I will remove that change.
Thank you, thank you. We will continue on. Okay, Michael, will you call the roll?
Commissioner McCracken Jen.
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Marr.
Aye.
Chair Werner.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. So we're moving on to open discussion, and Brandon has an idea that we're going to do
Yeah.
a retreat soon?
Yeah, so the commission typically in fall, it's hard to believe it's been a year since your last retreat, which I think was in October, but now is the time to start planning for it. You know, in the past retreats, we've done site visits of projects that have occurred within the prior year. And this is another opportunity to do that as well as a post-approval, post-construction review as to how projects turned out. Additionally, Chair Werner and I discussed the potential of inviting our legal department to talk about public meeting law so that we can have a overview in terms of the commissioner's roles as decision makers and email communication and correspondence, social media. And these are not unique to the Planning Commission. We've had such reviews with other committees as well as the City Council at their most recent meeting had a training session on these issues. In part, it's to ensure that the governing bodies and decision makers of the city review applications in a public arena and don't fall into an inadvertent trap of corresponding to all and actually deliberating on items that are on a current or future agenda. So one of the mechanisms that the City Council uses, for instance, is a city councilor will have a question. They will forward that question to staff. and staff will respond to all counselors and blind carbon copy each of them so that they're not in a position to talk back and forth electronically, as that constitutes a serial meeting and outside of the public meeting process. It's all still public record, but it's just a more transparent way to have those discussions in public meetings and be the recipient of information between the meeting, and all that information will then be carried forward for your packet. So those were some of the ideas that we had for a retreat for fall. One of the questions that came up at tonight's meeting is we're looking at the impact of particular prior decisions of the Planning Commission. I think the property at 329 Granite Street was mentioned. That may be another opportunity to look at. The project at 188 Garfield Street, a 70 unit apartment complex, which has now been completed and is now being occupied, is probably another site to take a look at if you haven't gone by there.
3 units.
What's that?
3 units are occupied.
Okay, beginning to be, I saw vehicles there when I went through. So again, I think that those are just some of the things, and I wanted to really raise it at this point so that you can think about it between now and the next meeting, and perhaps it's an item that we can discuss on the August 26th study session, so that we can be prepared to pull together a retreat for the commission in September or October.
So therefore, we should be looking at dates? Or we should come to that meeting with an idea of our calendar?
It might be good to come to the meeting on August 26th with your calendars, and we can discuss potential dates then. I think that what we've done in the past is, and again, it's up to the commission as to how you want your retreat to be, but we can meet in the morning and then go through mid-afternoon as pretty much a 6-hour retreat, whatever time is necessary and fits within your schedule. And doing that, and we could do it in a work day or on a weekend. Again, we want to be available to the commission as to what works best for your schedules. So look at when you're planning on being out of the community and not available, and we'll look at, eventually it might lead to a doodle poll in order to find a time that everybody's available outside of your regular meetings, but thanks.
Okay, so we have that to look forward to. Go ahead.
So, one idea, since I will be absent in 2 weeks, the question of wildfire preparedness and what is and isn't a standard and how it applies to land development, I think is, it keeps coming up. It's obviously on everyone's minds. I would have to evacuate through North Mountain Park, which will now have more units on it at some point in time. I wonder if our code is keeping up with it, or is there anything we should be briefed on as a planning commission, because we keep being asked these questions that we don't necessarily have. We're being asked to make judgment calls really more than legislative decisions, I guess.
Yeah, we can reach out to, the fire marshal or Chris Chambers with the fire department. They recently completed a community wildfire plan that identified a number of strategies, including amendments to our land use code. We did adopt a substantive land use code amendment in 2018 that established wildfire standards for landscaping and and adopted the building code, R 327.4, which was a allowance that the state gave communities. I think Ashland and Medford are the only 2 communities in the state that adopted it initially. The legislature in 2025 has now newly authorized communities to adopt that section now that there's not a statewide wildfire plan. But with that I should have stated is ignition-resistant building strategies. It falls outside of your arena because it's in building code, but nonetheless, as we're looking at building developments, ensuring that they don't have wood fences that connect to the buildings that functionally act as a fuse to bring fire up to a building. Those kind of things are covered under that wildfire landscape standards that the city adopted, prohibited plant list. And I think it's a good subject for a study session to see what kind of code changes that we made in 2015 could be refined, or I'm sorry, 2018 could be refined at this point to better protect our community. So.
Thank you. It's a good idea. Russell?
Thanks, Chair Werner, excuse me. Brandon, another question, just because we had so much, concern, I guess, about the fire danger with the higher density neighborhoods and potential escape routes. Would it be, I guess, prudent to have potentially somebody here from the fire department to answer questions when we have these types of developments on the table?
Yeah, we can always make a request. In large part, the fire department informs the development of the transportation system plan, which establishes the street standards and the minimum street widths. And then it is a land use review to see if it does meet those street standards or not. It's not necessarily a case-by-case assessment if something does meet standards, but I think that some of the testimony that's been provided to this commission is that they believe those standards should change. And in that discussion, I think the fire department would be essential as to advising what's necessary in order to adequately respond to a fire or a medical emergency, as well as evacuation to get people out of an area. We do have a lot of areas within the community that historically have developed in steep slope hillside areas in which evacuation is somewhat difficult, and as such, the public is advised to get signed up for alerts so that they know when they're ready to go at a level 2 and not wait for someone to knock on their door. I'm kind of speaking outside of the land use more about the wildfire protection plan that was recently adopted by council. But yeah, I think that in years past, the fire marshal has attended particular planning commission meetings in order to answer questions if it is a project that involves the dedication of new streets and a new subdivision like Beach Creek subdivision would be a good example, where it's creating a new street network as opposed to infill development on existing streets.
Thanks, Brandon. If we were to request fire department to come down and provide some answers, when would we want to reach out to them prior to a planning commission meeting?
Yeah, I don't have an ability to answer on behalf of the fire department, but I would, if it is a project that involves new street dedications and so forth, they do comment on a pre-application level, and we provide that information to the applicant before the design of a project. But we can make a request to the fire department to review our planning agendas and determine if there's an item there that they would like to attend on. Unfortunately, if the planning commission has a determination as a group to invite the fire department, you wouldn't be able to make that determination until you meet. So we've got a little bit of a catch-22 there, but I'll reach out to the fire marshal and ask Mark Shea how he would like to proceed in that arena and get back to you.
Okay, thanks, Brandon.
That also brings up a question that I had on the project that we just discussed tonight, the first one. When we were in our hearings and deliberations, there was reference to, oh, well, the fire department will take care of that. And I guess I would like to hear from the fire department when we're making those kinds of determinations, what they actually would do and how they would approach that, and so that they understand our concerns in addition to their own concerns. Does that make sense?
It does, and just for clarification, you're referring to the project at 231 Granite, in which you've already adopted findings, not the Kestrel division, or subdivision.
Correct, yeah, not Kestrel.
And I know they provided a letter to the record in that action.
Right, but it was pretty vague and said, we'll take care of it when the time comes, kind of thing.
Yeah, and my understanding, again, we'll maybe as an item for the retreat, talk to the fire department as to whether they'd like to answer these questions directly. But I do think that in the past, the fire department has looked at proposals in a general context, and they don't do a review and grant this will be approved until there's a building permit before them, for them to review that building permit and make a determination, because that requires a plan review for review of all fire code and that it does meet. And they're reluctant to state that a proposed development that's at a conceptual state meets all fire code requirements before a building permit has been applied for
And,
as
yeah.
part of their issuance process. But again, I think.
Yeah, and I get that. I would like maybe something in the middle that said that in general, we like to see X, Y, and Z, not A, B, and C. We, in 231 Granite Street, there was the question of a fire hydrant off-site that was maybe private, and how would they deal with that, and those kind of things.
Yeah, again, I think that these are good topics that we can bring back and see if the fire department, along with the legal department, will want to attend a 6-hour retreat.
Cool.
We could
We can-
refine their time limit, so.
Yeah, maybe we can give them lunch. Okay.
Just thinking a little bit further too, this might be a little far-fetched, but, okay, if we're in the top 3%, who are the top 1%? And who are the best practices? Because one thing that I read about Paradise is that in its rebuilding, it was, very focused on not repeating mistakes of the past, building a best-in-class city, and as a consequence, became insurable again. So I don't know. I read one article or two, in the insurance world that said that. But, what are the best-in-class, cases, and what might Ashland do differently to become one of those? And I also have a home in Sun River. I know what Sun River has done. And it's kind of different in its approach, as its topography is different and so forth. But, just some compare and contrast and learn from others.
Well, there's our agenda for the retreat.
If you think of other items between now and the 26th that you feel that we should take this annual opportunity to explore, feel free to bring those then.
Okay.
And we can have firehouse subs for our lunch to stay in
With a theme.
in the theme.
Yeah, I have one other suggestion. In my short time on commission, there's been the question of easements have come up frequently, easements around the ditch trail and various other access points for hiking. One of the great things about living in Ashland is you have access to the trails. So that would be, even if it doesn't have to be a big item, but it would be interesting, I think, to hear.
Okay. Are we ready to adjourn? Go
I'd
for it.
like to, thanks Chair Werner, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, move to second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned at 8:14.